annual meeting. That would go with the regular meeting.
I'll move to approve since I was there.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous annual meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Election of officers. We'll start with the trustee, or the treasurer.
I'd like to continue on.
Hmm?
I'd like to continue on as treasurer if the board agrees.
I move that Kirk be our continue on as treasurer.
And I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Kirk continuing as treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Secretary,
And I would like to stay on.
thank you. Are there any other nominations? A motion?
I move to carry Linda Riley over as secretary for CAFA.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vice chairman,
I would remain in service.
are there any other nominations?
I move that we accept Craig staying on as vice chairman.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chairman,
Tom?
sure, I'll do it.
I would make a motion that Tom Osborne remain our CAFA board chairman.
I'll second that. There you go.
Thank you, and I consider it an honor, although I joke a lot. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Committee assignments. I have no committee assignments at this time. I believe we should just do that as we see fit throughout the year. Any objections to that?
I would agree. The only question I would raise is do we consider yourself and Kurt a quote-unquote committee for union negotiations? Or only when that's happening, so,
That would be on an as-needed basis.
okay.
Actually, this year for negotiations, we might do it a little different. I mean, Kurt and I will be the lead, but we might add other people too. I have to discuss with everybody about doing that, so. But right now, we don't have any standing committees.
Very good.
Meeting times.
Move that we continue to meet at 9 a.m.
I'll second.
Meetings at 9 a.m. on the third
Tuesday. So we're gonna put the dates in there also with that motion? No problem.
That's-
You do both.
Well,
Next-
it's
next
not
one's covering
all
that.
of it.
All those in favor of 9 a.m. meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Regular meeting schedule, that would be the third Tuesday of every month.
I would make a motion to continue to meet on the third Tuesday of each month, 9 a.m. here in the city of Chelsea Council Chambers. Dates as presented. I believe we did present dates, didn't we?
Yeah, all the way, the rest of you.
Second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, these are all the 2015 dates.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are, here's our 26, as presented, yeah.
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Schedule our annual meeting. That would be January, third Tuesday, whatever that is.
I would make a motion to schedule our next annual meeting Tuesday, January 17th, 2017, 9 a.m. here in the city council chambers.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other business? Need a motion to adjourn the annual meeting?
I am the motion to adjourn, ma'am.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now for our regular meeting. Call to order, and please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance for our regular meeting.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of the regular agenda. I have one item to add. In the closed session, Lieutenant Klink would like to address the board, so I'd like to add that to the closed session. Any other additions?
I have one addition to put under unfinished business, would be brief discussion of the cost recovery ordinance.
Okay, that's under new business. You wanna move it?
Yeah, really, 'cause it's just.
Well, let's leave it on there then, leave it, it was unfinished, but
Technically, yeah, I guess it would be, but let's move it to make it official.
To unfinished.
Move A to
A under new
unfinished
business goes
business.
up to A under unfinished.
Okay. It'd be under unfinished.
Might want to change your date on your agenda.
I can't hear you.
Might want to change your date on the agenda.
Yeah, that's wrong. Today's would be the 19th. January 19th.
Okay, consent agenda. Approval of minutes, invoice paid, and treasurer's report.
We do approval of the regular agenda as amended.
Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot to approve that. Thank you. Motion to approve the regular agenda
As amended.
as amended.
I'll make
So-
that,
So
I'll make
moved.
that motion.
Second.
There we go, very good.
Jim made it, I second.
Motion to approve the regular agenda as amended, moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda. Approval of minutes, invoice paid, and the treasurer's report.
Under treasurer's report, I'd like to do that when we get to our reports.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the invoices paid.
As amended. And I'll second.
Mo-
second,
As amended.
any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda carries. Public comment. Anyone wish makes a public comment? No public comment. Chief's report.
Yes, December, as we annually do, participated in the Holiday Lights Parade. Our on-duty staff conducted public education programs for the U of M Family Medicine, and also continue to work at North School, and it's called their Bucket Fillers Program. You go down there, so they did a couple great things with some of the PR events. Myself and Lieutenant Rigner attended a meeting at HVA, and they hosted subscribers that participate with Central Dispatch, and they conducted a tabletop exercise utilizing some of the proposed updated procedures that's being proposed. So, also in the board packet is, we received a letter from the Washtenaw County Hazardous Materials Response Authority, Vic Chevret, and their appreciation for the participation of our two current members on the hazmat team, and that's Captain Bazar and Lieutenant Rigner. Crews continue to do pre-incident planning. Training in December was, we recertified everybody in CPR, and there was really no major incidents that occurred in our area. We provided some standby coverage for Dexter while they were out on a structure fire, and then we assisted Manchester on a possible structure fire that ended up being canceled too. That's pretty much it. Couple thank yous in there. We have some really good people, and that is reflective in the amount of, the thank yous and the appreciation for the care that our people provide to the citizens.
It's nice when people say thank you.
Yeah,
It is.
with photos even. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it reflects our professional service to the community that, it's a wonderful asset, Chief, so all the men are to be acknowledged and congratulated.
Absolutely.
Any questions for the chief? Unfinished business. Cost recovery and billing ordinance discussion.
If I can, Tom, I distributed copies. I sent your letter and the sample from Foster Swift to our planner, and had them draft it to tailor it to Lima Township, if you will. If you folks would like to look at that, and I don't know if we want to run that past Mike or not to see if that's acceptable, but I think our goal in this was then to have the other municipalities basically mirror this, and just take Mike's sample and tailor it to each individual municipality, and that way we were all on the same sheet of music with the cost recovery and billing.
I think the key thing here is, whether they wanna follow what Mike said or totally go off on their own, that's up to them, so long as they have an ordinance. That's the main thing.
Mhm. Well, I thought the issue that we got into before was the fact that there were too many variations between Lima, Linda, Sylvan, what have you, and it was our goal to consolidate that to where everyone adopted and or modified their current ordinance to basically have a mirror image so that the CAFA knew when something happened that they didn't have to research each individual municipality to make sure they were in compliance with that particular ordinance.
Well, what happened before was there was some conflict between these federal laws that allow you to require to recoup under hazardous materials and some of the local ordinances. You have to, if it's a hazardous material incident, then you have to use the federal law. You can't use the local ordinance. And that's where the conflict came up on some of the billing. And kind of in review, it was determined that we weren't sure the townships had ordinances. So they will still, if an incident occurs in Lima, when we do the billing, we have to cite the Lima ordinance. And if it happens in Sylvan, we have to quote the Sylvan ordinance, so on and so forth. So there's still that hassle, if you want to call it that, but basically the main thing was separating these ordinances from the hazardous material laws.
Well, the other thing is to updating it so we can collect for, you know, some of the activities that go on today, like, you know, when we first come out with a lot of the cost recovery ordinances that were geared towards hazmat, for example. And now, you know, with tech rescue and some of the other things that are out there, this ordinance gives us the ability to really have the meat and potatoes there so that we can use it for collection purposes, so we recoup our costs.
So it would be up to each individual to take this back to their township and come up with their ordinance and provide that information to the department for cost recovery purposes.
I guess my question would be that, Tom, I'd like you and Chief to look through our draft here and give your blessing on it. And at that point, I will put it on next month's agenda and get it published and everything so we can put it into action.
Will do.
Come all communities involved, I mean, as a unit of ordinance for all communities, or just for yours?
Well, we will have to adopt, each township, each municipality will have to adopt individually. But I still think our goal would be, if, as long as each municipality finds this acceptable, what we got from Mike Bloom here.
Right.
I mean, that's ideal, so that the only thing when CAFA is billing, they either say Lima Township 5.568, or they say Sylvan Township 18.63, or whatever, whatever the numbers happen to be. But other than that, in a perfect world, the ordinances are identical, would be the same. So you don't.
Falls under the authorities, right?
Well, that's why
Exactly,
if
you
they,
don't have that concern.
if they follow the Foster Swift template, if you'll say, then this should come out.
Which is what we did.
Right.
I mean, the only thing our planner did for us was to plug Lima in the appropriate spots, and away we went, so.
We discussed it at Sylvan board meeting, and we looked around, we do not have an existing ordinance that we would revise. So it would be a new ordinance, and I think we thought it would take at least 2 months to get that ordinance, you know, officially on the books.
It does.
Because it's gonna have to go through public hearing. The one part here that I'm a little confused with is, and in public hearings, I'll have to speak to this. You know, it talks about benefited persons and properties, fees charged. against the, for purpose of this ordinance, it defines who the benefited persons are. And I sort of thought this section was going to outline when we charge for these services. So for example, in number 3, it says anybody who's violating the law, we have the right to charge them. Number 4 talks about anybody who makes a false alarm. You know, I agree. When I read number 1, it says any person who receives emergency fire, medical, or transportation or rescue services other than, or other benefit from an emergency response. Well, that's everything we do. That's every call we make. So we're saying we could potentially charge for every call we make.
Even our residents are paying millage?
Right.
Yeah, I
Is
thought passed.
is the way I read that.
Yeah, that would allow for that, yes.
It would allow for that. Okay.
Now, the question is, if I was on the other side and received the bill, and the question is, what is determined that should be included in my millage for the services and what is not? Now, do we have a list to that effect as to standard services for an emergency include this, but they don't include that? You know, I'm the devil's advocate on that one.
And I think we're purposely trying to stay away from such a list.
Understand?
Yeah.
Understand.
And so that's how I would answer that one. And then number 2 talks about negligent actions. Well, I think most home fires are as a result of negligent action. So again, it sounds to me what we're doing is we're staying away from a list that says this is when you're gonna get charged out of the 1.8 mils. We're keeping a little more open so we don't have to have this itemized list. Because then somebody will argue, well, it wasn't on your itemized list. I had a chimney fire, yeah, I should have cleaned it, and I didn't, but it's not on your list. So, you know, all of a sudden that list gets pretty lengthy.
Right.
But, you know, just so that we're all clear that this does sort of, you know, open the door a little bit. Maybe that's not a bad thing.
It's pretty all-inclusive.
Okay.
It does allow for an appeals process, so that's good. And so then, you know, I'm not sure who writes the ordinances for Sylvan Township.
I think Carol. I think Carol.
So Kara could do that for us.
I think so.
And then it would look, it would fit into our standard format. Okay. I don't think it's that critical that each one look the same. If that causes a lot of problems, you know, that they're a little bit different, I don't think it's a problem. I think as long as you can reference what ordinance and what township gives you the authority to charge, then we're okay.
That's the main thing, yeah.
The city already has that. So I don't know if we want to go through the process of
Well, in
closing, you know.
In Mike Blum's correspondence, he said he reviewed and revised the Chelsea City's ordinance. I'm not sure what revisions he made, but he did use that word,
He did.
revised.
He did, and I think that's back when. I don't think that's current though.
Mm.
I mean, he might have updated it, but I'm not sure on it current, but I think that's what it was having. Because if it's been rewritten, it would come before the council, and I don't remember it coming before council asking approval for the revision of an ordinance, paragraph, page, whatever, so.
And I think Linden has a cost recovery ordinance, so it would be an amendment,
Or a replacement.
yes.
And I'll still bring it up to my board.
Any other questions? New business, capital millage request. Who was you spoke to that was gonna help us with that?
Luann Cook said she would help.
Who?
Luann Cook. She said she would help, she was willing to help.
I need contact information for her.
Okay, all right.
She has agreed to help us if we should decide to go for a capital millage request. Basically, what it boils down to is we barely have enough money to run the fire department. We don't have the money to maintain the equipment and make the updates that are both necessary and mandated. If the board should decide, we would ask for a capital millage. We'd have to decide how much that should be. And when we can get it on the ballot. I haven't run into anybody that's in favor of raising taxes yet, but if we're gonna maintain our level of service, I believe this is something that we're just gonna have to do. Our millage was originally set up to run and maintain a volunteer fire department or a paid-on-call fire department. And over the years, we have changed to more full-time because of the inability to maintain the numbers we needed. And with those come certain costs that we just haven't been able to absorb. So basically, I imagine it'll be the chief and myself will be coming up with how much and why we need it.
Did I get you that printout that Vince Spade had supplied? He ran some numbers just with, he took chief's projections on equipment replacement dates, so on and so forth, and then ran a spreadsheet of quarter mil, half mil, 3/4, 1 mil, what have you, and then laid that out.
I haven't seen it.
Let me put a track on that then, and I'll get you a copy of that. It did not include, if I remember right, some of the things like air packs and things like that, but it, you know, it just gave a relatively good breakdown of what you absolutely have to do if you're gonna think about replacing this equipment as it comes up and goes out of service.
That would definitely be helpful, because that's what we have to come up with.
Yeah.
In the same light, I'm always concerned about our liability. Certain equipment that needs maintenance and it's not maintained, where does our liability stand if we're unable to maintain it because of the budget restraints that we have? I'm not knowledgeable enough to make that determination, but I'm sure the state has some basic requirements that if we're running a fire department, you will maintain this equipment.
Right.
And if you don't, you know, what are the penalties? At the same time, that may shift the priorities of what comes first versus others.
Well, a good example of that is turnout gear.
Right.
We have to maintain so many sets of turnout gear for personnel. And after 10 years, you gotta replace it. That's coming up. So when it comes time to replace it, right now, our choice would be, you know, cut personnel, because we have to replace that gear, it's state law, social regulation.
Okay.
So if you only got $1 and you have to spend it here, you can't spend it there.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
Right, there's other examples.
Okay, so the priority then, well, under the maintenance of equipment, is pretty much determined by the state and what we have and how old it is and.
Nationally
cost.
recognized standards, NFPA, things like that. So, I mean, it's like our air packs right now, we're to the point that we had to borrow 6 air packs from another department so that we could, maintain, enough air packs in place, so. And, so,
you know, we're probably in a corner at this point based off the budget being able to run the department but can't maintain it with the current budget. So how long do we decide between now and the time we get the money determined as needed to maintain the equipment till we get before the citizens to say, yes, we'll approve it or no, not approve it? Then we gotta make a decision what's gotta be cut off in the way of either personnel or services to help pay for those. Right now, I see we're in kind of a gray area, and I'm concerned about the liability aspect to the authority and to the municipalities that are involved, because it falls on all of our shoulders.
Right.
Well, that's why I would like to get the board's approval to move forward with this. And hopefully by next month, the chief and I can come back with some numbers and proceed from there.
And priorities, yeah.
And I think that's going to be very important as a selling point also, to say, here's the numbers we've crunched, here's what we absolutely have to maintain and obtain the equipment that we have, and what is not required. You know, if you can show people that, I think they accept it a whole lot easier than, for instance, the radio situation where nobody could figure out exactly why they needed, whatever it was, 2 mills or something like that, and nobody could explain it.
I would entertain a motion to direct myself and the chief to explore a capital millage request.
So moved.
Second?
Can we have some additional discussion on that?
Sure.
Some additional discussion on that?
Sure.
I think if we go for a capital millage, we need to figure out how to keep the funds separate. To have a capital millage account and then dip into that every once in a while when our operations are going over budget defeats the whole purpose of doing it.
Right. Well, you
know,
can't do that.
When I started here 5 years ago, we had 800 some thousand in reserves, and today we're down to 300 some thousand in reserves. And I think a lot of people have always looked at that reserve fund as, you know, excuses for spending more money in other areas. So if we're gonna do this, it's gotta be very clearly separate money.
So be dedicated, correct, is that what you're saying, Kurt?
Right.
Solely, no, can't be
Well,
touched.
it certainly could be, because we've got line items to say that should this millage pass, it will go to this, and this line item, which is, you know, capital procurements for air packs and truck fund and so on and so forth. So we've got the ways and means to do that.
The law requires that if you have a capital millage, that's what the millage is spent on.
It has to be separated.
You can't, like if for some reason the capital millage got built up and we decided, well, we wanna spend that money on, you know, training, we can't do that.
Right.
With the 300,000 we have left in reserve, would any of that go towards that fund? Would we start out the capital fund with zero?
It'd be zero. It'd be whatever that millage brings in.
Paycheck to paycheck, if you will.
Wow. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Vote on the motion. All those in favor of the chief and I exploring a capital millage request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One opposed.
One opposed. Motion carries with one opposed.
back up if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
And just for clarification, Kirk, what other option would you provide in light of what was proposed?
I think there are a lot of fire departments in the surrounding areas that live with 1.8 mils, and I think if you can't manage the current 1.8, then you're not gonna be able to manage whatever you're gonna be handed. You can bump it up to 2.2, and within 5-6 years, you'll be right back in the same boat again, and you'll just continue to play this game. You know, and in Sylvan Township, it's not gonna pass anyway, so, in my guess. My crystal ball says Sylvan will not vote for it.
Okay.
But that won't stop it from passing.
Well, I understand that. I guess the question is then, if you feel that the 1.8 that we have right now should suffice for what we have, then how do you determine where do we move our funds around in this current budget that we've been working with to satisfy these maintenance needs? I'm with you. Yeah, believe me, if we can do it, and it should be under the 1.8, I want it under the 1.8. But until someone shows me how that can be done, I think we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard spot at this point. I don't know where else, what we can do, either cut services or get some capital funds.
Well, the Lima Township Hall caused us to go about 170,000 over budget last year. That's our fault as a board. You know, are we gonna have that 170,000 hit again in 2016? No. You know, that deal's done. The contract that we negotiated with the union, you know, increased wages, it looks like, by $100,000. Can we afford to do that? You know, we're gonna be getting into contract negotiations. What will the, you know, wage increase be? Positive, zero, negative? Those are all things that this board has control over.
Would the citizens be willing to understand that the consequences could be less service, that they would accept that?
Well, that's a possibility. You know, we are, you know, in just the short time I've been here, we're really not a fire department, we're a first responder department. You know, I look at Sylvan Township, and out of 15 calls, 13 of them were to I-94.
Yeah. Understood. Thanks, Kirk.
Well, and I think that's what it boils down to, you know, we're gonna spell out that, you know, this is what we need to maintain our service at this point, or how much we need, and let the people make a choice.
Right.
You know, if
Yep.
they
Yep.
so desire less service, then let them, you know,
People speak.
make that choice.
Right.
Just like the guy that lives out in the middle of Montana, he don't expect a fire truck. You know, it's a choice he makes.
Basically, we're just approving you at this point to look into it. We're not
Right, oh
approving
yeah,
to
we're
go forward with
not, we're
it.
not
Right.
putting forth any proposals or anything at this time. This is strictly fact finding,
That's what we gotta have before before the next step.
before you can make a decision of actually
Yes.
go for the millage. That would be a totally separate issue. Any other question on capital millage requests? Okay, moving right along, reports. Chairman, we are on the very brink of settling one of our grievances. With Ian Ballard, and I have the final paperwork, so hopefully we can put that to rest today. Ian, if you can see me before,
I've got to leave in a few minutes.
okay,
And
well, I will.
I'm under a little bit of different understanding, I guess, than what you just reported, so.
Okay,
we might
when,
need
when do you
clarification on
work
that.
next?
Saturday.
Okay, well, we'll hook up.
Okay.
Thank you for electing me chairman. Like I said, I do consider it an honor. I like to make jokes, but I do consider it an honor that you have the faith in me. And other than that, I have nothing else. Vice chairman,
I have nothing.
secretary,
Nothing at this point.
Mr. Treasurer.
Okay, on the profit loss, budget versus actual 2015. So this one, it shows all our income and then starts to list the expenses. Under chief's vehicle allowance,
Yeah.
we're showing a different amount for budget than we are for actual.
Yeah, that's being worked on actually. That is correct. They were taking the wrong amount out, so that's being repaid.
Correct. So that was a problem last month.
Yes, and that was being addressed last month. Judy worked on that last month to find out what the actual numbers were. And in January, that starts to be recouped, so.
Yeah, so that becomes an audit finding next year. When the 2015 books get audited,
I'm assuming so,
they're
yeah.
gonna say, this was the
Probably.
vehicle allowance and this is what was paid out.
Right.
It'll be
Judy,
audited.
as far as I know, Judy's already talked to the auditors about it, so, and it's being worked on, so that's being addressed.
All right, on the income side of this, you know, the good news is that we collected 117,000 more than what we budgeted for. So I guess that's good news. When you get over to the expense side, you can see that we're almost 270,000 over budget. So all the good news got wiped out by the bad news, and we wound up being 152,000 in the hole. And on a 1.5 to 1.6 billion budget, that's about 10%. On the next page, balance sheet. We continue to show the Lima escrow fund. They've been asking for months to have that off of there, and it continues to show up. I don't know why that's so hard to fix. Judy was here last month. I pointed it out to her.
She's having some problems with the program, she talked to the auditors about getting that changed.
I can't hear.
She did talk to the auditors about
Removing
changing
that?
I think she- I wondered if
Yeah,
that's-
to do it, because there's funds in it.
Understand that in QuickBooks, those reports are memorized, a lot of those reports, and so Bauer generates, and so she was going in and trying to change that, and she was having problems getting it to, access to change that. So,
Because if we've used the money for the station, there shouldn't be any money left in
it
there.
shouldn't be, and then, and I don't know if there is, a problem, like more than one memorized report in QuickBooks, and she pulled up the wrong one. I'm not sure, but I know that was addressed once before.
It was off for a while.
Yeah,
But even if you pulled up that report, if that money had been allocated out of there and it was a zero balance, that money should have already been spent
But
on the
if-
station. It should come up as a zero balance, because it's gonna look at your current balance, and it's gonna input those numbers. So a number shouldn't show up there. There should be zeros.
even if she's pulling up an old report.
Yeah, because it's just
And
going
if
and
it's
looking at the
generating-
current balance under that fund. And if you've already allocated it for the Lima Township Hall, it's somehow, whether it's gonna be a journal
I'm not
entry or
sure how
not,
it got
it needs
that
to be
high.
adjusted, yeah.
That's
Well,
something-
it really didn't get allocated to the Lima Township Hall. It's something that was there that should have gone away a long time ago. And that's why I'd like to see it gone, because it's gonna create confusion the further we get away from the meeting notes when that was resolved.
Yeah, when we're all gone.
And we're all gone, that's just gonna
Well,
lead
it was
to.
well early last year, if not the year
Right.
before.
So,
that we-
who has the ability to fix it, and when's it gonna be done?
I would think that
Judy.
somebody from the auditor's office
Yeah.
could come and help her clean
Talk
the
to her.
report up.
Yeah.
Right, but, I mean,
But it's
you're,
QuickBooks.
you, the chief, are responsible.
I'll talk to Judy.
For the budget.
Yep, I'll talk to her.
You know, this is
I got a
an
note right here.
action item that
Yep.
we need to get fixed, whatever it
Yes.
takes.
For next month's meeting, we wanna see it gone.
Right, if that's possible.
Yeah,
Because I-
but if not,
I'm
I'll
certain
let,
those funds are no longer in there. I mean, that.
No,
that
it should be.
entire-
They
That
went
entire
to-
line item there is just,
Right, they were moved into the reserve fund.
Right.
Is where they went.
yep. I'll talk to Judy and have her work with the auditors, whatever, to get it cleaned up.
Okay, that's all I have.
I've got one item. We totally blew the overtime budget. 160% of what was budgeted.
Yeah.
We need to have a plan so that we don't do that again this year. Whether it's run with 2 guys instead of 3, or whatever.
Okay. Some of that's gonna be contractually done, driven, but we can certainly take a look at it.
We have to have some kind of plan, because if we can't do that this year.
Yep.
We done run out of money.
Yep.
I don't believe contractually we have to have 3 people on duty each day, do we?
No.
$500 and some for Polly's.
Yeah.
This last month,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under,
$586 for Polly's food service.
500?
Says $586.
That I don't know. I know that, there are some supplies and stuff that are picked up there, but that one I'm gonna have to get back on you with,
We wrote him a check.
Yeah, I know, and to exactly what it was, I'd have to just go back and look though. Cause they, I mean, coffee there and stuff like that there, and I'd have to go back, I'll look it up for you and call you.
I have nothing else.
Yeah. If I may ask a question?
Okay.
We have a high loft bill for 3,500. Am I reading that right?
That's for Station
Yeah, that was for Station 2.
2. Appliances, was it?
Appliances,
Yeah.
yeah.
For equipping the
Appliances.
appliances.
Appliances, yeah.
Station 2,
Yep.
because you're under Station 2 project there.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, there we go.
Trustees. This is Jim's last meeting. Oh, do you have anything else?
no,
Do you have
I'm
it
set.
for somebody else coming?
Hmm?
Is someone else replacing?
There is an
you?
alternate. I have officially sold my business in my home. And so, be heading to Maryland to be near my grandkids. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you for your help. It's been good to have a new, fresh set of eyes come in and sort of see what we're struggling with.
Well, thank you. I've always felt that the fire service is an important element of our community, and, you know, since I was here during the inception, way back when, it's evolved to something more than what we saw back then, but everything does. But I have all the confidence in the world that our citizens do appreciate and understand what's needed and what they get from CAFA. And that's a very good sign. That's a very good sign. So I thank you all. Thank you
Who will
all.
be replacing you? Have they selected someone yet?
There's an alternate. Pete Feeney is the alternate, and he was just given that position last meeting.
I'm sorry, who was it, Jim?
Peter Feeney.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, he'll be informed of that tonight, officially, and then, but, yes.
Tell them about the great pay and benefits.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm waiting for the kickback. Nothing's come back. You know, it didn't happen.
You get the kick,
They
though.
give you a
Oh, I got the
kickback.
kick, yeah. You know, nothing came with it. Just the pain.
Okay. Announcements. The next meeting is third Tuesday of next month.
February 16th.
Was it February what?
Says here February 16th, or other date to be determined. February 16th is what's.
February 16th. Okay, we
That
need.
date. Is that okay? That
Hmm?
date?
Mm-hmm. We need to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session.
Second?
Yeah, we just need to state the purpose for, I believe.
Grievance negotiation.
Chief's evaluation and
Lieutenant Clink wishes to address us.
And then coming out of closed session, we'll have a final public comment and then
Correct. Is there a second?
I think we should add the time, 9:55, and I will second.
All those in favor of going into closed session, do roll call on us?
Yes. Kurt?
yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
We give a 2-minute tea break.
There we go. Yeah, we get rid of some coffee. Okay. Okay. Call for a 2-minute recess or until the room
5-minute
gets cleared.
recess.